Hello again and welcome to the podcast where I'm answering some of the questions that came up for you during our technology workshop. This question comes from Kara, and the question is, can podcasts be used for reading? Well, the simple answer I think is yes. And what I'd like to do in this segment is to give you a couple examples of how you might use podcasts in a reading class, and that might be to enhance productive skills and also receptive skills at the same time. So let's look at a couple examples. The first site that we want to look at is from a location called ESL and Archie Comics. It can be found at www.archiecomics.com/podcasts, and you can see that there on the bottom of your screen. Now, as you can see, this site has some links across the top, and then it has an Archie Comics. Now, Archie Comics have been around for a long time in the US, but they're still being produced, and they are pretty up to date, and hopefully, I think they can be fun for your students. Now, each one of these has a comic, as you can see, and then it also has a sound recording, which we're going to listen to now.
Look at this ad, Jug. They sell lightweight telephone headsets. You can work at your computer and still talk on your cell phone hands-free. Wow.
Okay, well, maybe the voice is a little bit cheesy, but as you can see, you've got the comic, and then you can listen to someone reading the comic, a native speaker, which is always nice. And after that, what you can do with a site like this is look at some of the other materials it includes. Because for each comic, it also includes elements like vocabulary, some exercises, and some other elements. So, looking down, you can see they have the learning guide. They also have a version of it in Spanish, a transcript of what was said. Here's a glossary of the vocabulary from the podcast, from the comic. And then we also have comprehension questions and the answers to the comprehension questions. Keep going down and we'll get to the next comic, number 46. So, as you can see, there are a lot of Archie comics you can use. Okay, enough about Archie. Now, let's look at one more example in here, and this example is using fairy tales, which I actually like to use in ESL reading and writing classes a lot. And in this case, we'll look at ways to use them for receptive skills and for productive skills by looking at someone's podcast about fairy tales and then talking about what you could do with your students. So, let's take a look. Many of you are familiar with the fairy tale of Rapunzel, who was the girl with the really long hair. Let's take a listen to a reading of that fairy tale on a site called Fairy Tale Corner. The website is www.chestnutbay.com/ftc.htm, as you can see on the bottom of your screen. And then we'll talk about how you might use this in your class.
Hello, and welcome to Fairy Tale Corner. I am Envy. Today we will be reading Rapunzel from Grimm's Complete Fairy Tales. There once lived a man and his wife who had long wished for a child, but in vain. Now there was at the back of their house a little window which overlooked a beautiful garden full of the finest vegetables and flowers. But there was a high wall all round it, and no one ventured into it, for it belonged to a witch of great might, and of whom all the world was afraid.
Alright, if you want to find out what happened to Rapunzel, I guess you're just going to have to go to the website and listen to the rest. Now, how could you use this in a reading class? Well, first, of course, there's the obvious. You can have your students read the fairy tale, if you can find the same version, and have them listen to this one. But I think you can also have them take a fairy tale like this and do something similar to what you see me doing on this podcast. Have them go out and find images for a pre-existing podcast like this and create their own movie to go with that audio podcast. I think that can work pretty well. And of course you can also take the oral version again and have them do things like create their own version to reflect their own culture, or to make it into a more modern version. That again could be done with pictures found on the internet. The traditional reading, but the modern Rapunzel, I think could be a lot of fun. So hopefully that gives you a few ideas at least about how you might use podcasts in a reading class. And that's it for now. Bye.